And hello, everybody, and welcome to Free Tip Friday. I'm Kate Richberg, and today I'm coming at you for another pre-recorded broadcast. As you may have seen in your newsletters, we launched some really cool stuff yesterday that I want to just take a moment and share how to work with with you. Because I've given you a couple of sneak peeks of the bracelets I've been wearing, and I think you guys are really going to love it. So I'm sorry I'm away today. I am filming this after I filmed Wednesday's broadcast. So I'm sorry I'm away, but I will be back soon. I am taking care of some family business. So that being said, let's take a look at what we've got going on here. First and foremost, I want to let you know that you can find us on all of our social media. You can follow us on our Instagram at beadshop.com. Join us on our Facebook group called The Bead Table over on Facebook. We'd love to have you over there. We have a really great group of people that share all kinds of fun stuff that's bead shop project related. And of course, you can like and subscribe to us right at beadshop.com on our YouTube channel. And of course, everything that you see in today's broadcast, you can find right on beadshop.com. I've got some new things that for a while, pardon me, you're going to see them in our just in section, but then you'll see them in our chords and our findings section as well. Okay. So let's jump in and take a look here at what I've got to share with you. Oops, let me get this off the screen. There we go. Okay, so as you have seen, we've got some new cord. We've got some crimps here for cord. Um, and we've got some of our older leather cord here as well. We've got those crimps that come in a couple of sizes. And then we've got a crimping plier for these particular crimps as well. So we've got a bunch of stuff I want to share with you. So if you've been watching me the last couple of weeks, I've been wearing this stack of leather little bangle bracelets, I guess I call them. And a while back, quite a few years ago, I saw a friend of mine. She was wearing these with this cotton bolo cord, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love them. So I sourced the crimps and the cord, and you can make a whole bunch of really, really cool stuff with them. Okay, that I like to call leather bangle bracelets. We're going to use the leather, and we're going to use this cotton cord. So first, let's take a look at the cotton cord. You can use the cotton cord like you would use kind of this 2 millimeter leather cord like this, right? It's a little bit bigger. They call it 2 millimeter, but it's actually a little bit larger than 2 millimeter. And I'm looking for my millimeter gauge. I just had it. Here we go. And I want to show you what the millimeter size of this is. It's about 2.6, so it's a little bit bigger than your regular 2 millimeter cord. The 2 millimeter, the cords, the leather cords actually kind of vary in size depending on the cord and when it's made and how it's. So sometimes that will vary, but this cord, this braided, what they call the braided bolo cord, is actually not leather. It's actually cotton, which is really cool. It's very supple, comes in a bunch of different colors. We even have a two-tone one, and this sage and brown, this green, lots of really beautiful colors, and we sell them by the meter. Our cord, our leather cord comes in 4-yard bundles, but just like all of the rest of our cords and things, we sell these guys by the meter here. Okay, so that's that. We have these crimps. They're long crimps. They come in an opening for 12 gauge wire and for 14 gauge wire. So they're kind of a tight fit on this bolo cord, but I'm going to show you my trick in order so that you can use them with this because they look really, really cool. The length on these crimps, just so you know, is almost 10.5 millimeters. The outside diameter, let me turn that around, it's about a 3 millimeter. So the inside diameter is a little, it's almost exactly 2.1 this one is. So you have to squeeze this cord down, this bolo cord, in order for it to fit. Okay, so that's the 12 gauge. We also have the 14 gauge, same length. Inner diameter is a little smaller, 1.8 millimeter. Outside diameter, 2.9. Now they come in some different colors. We've got them in kind of an antique silver and a brass, and these are the copper. Now I want to show you, these copper are kind of unfinished. So all of these kind of have an antique look. You could get your pro polish pad and polish these up a little bit, but I kind of like this unpolished look that they have. And sometimes some of the edges might be a little rough, like this one is here. You can simply grab your wire cutter, clean that up. These are made out of a seamless tube, so you don't have to worry about a seam. So you can just clean it up that way and give, if there's a little burr or something on the inside, you can just clean it up there and it's ready to go. Okay. So let me start with the challenging cord, which is this cotton bolo cord. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is we're going to stiffen the ends of these cords to make it easier for you to be more successful. So what I'm going to do is my zap glue trick. I've got my zap glue gel and I'm going to extrude a bit onto just a, I've got a baggie here, but anything that you can then throw away. And I'm going to go ahead, I should have actually measured this first, but I'm going to go ahead and do this end. And so I've kind of stiffened the end with my glue. And then I'm going to let that sit. I've got a little more glue there, so let me do this blue one too, I guess, since that's what I like right there. And if you need a little bit more zap, let's get that out there. I'm sure that you are going to find all kinds of great uses for this braided bolo as well. You can use, we've got a variety of crimps on beadshop.com that you can use, and I'll do another show with crimps that so you can experiment with that and see how they work. You can also use it for wrap bracelets, the wraps, the the wraps in between, the beads in between, you could use a little bit larger. It would be a great wrap bracelet like that. So there's a lot you can do with it. I love the braided look too. It is bolo cord and it's that, it's thin. But it would look great just as a single, necklace around the neck, stuff like that. But I really think it's going to look amazing with these bangles. So you can see I've cut, let me clear a little space there. I've stiffened the end with that zap glue, okay? And now I'm going to come in and with your thread snips, and actually these are, since it's stiff, it's a little harder to do. So I'm going to actually do that with my wire cutters. I'm going to do a really steep angle cut on these. And now I'm going to get my 12 millimeter cord crimp, and I actually need to make a pretty stiff, not stiff, but pretty angled cut here. There we go. That looks a little bit better. Because that angle cut, let me make sure that those are the, yeah, those are the 12. That angle cut's really got to fit in there. Okay. And you're going to just kind of get that end so it's nice and tight. You may want to get your pliers to kind of help you. You kind of have to screw it on there almost a little bit. But that angle cut, and you can see how it's gone in there pretty nice and evenly. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to crimp this on. Okay, and you can see it's just a single crimper, like so. I'm going to come in close to the edge, just like I would with a crimping plier if I were crimping a crimp bead. And see that there? I'm going to come in and I'm going to crimp it on that side. Okay, and that's in there. Nothing is coming out. So now you can kind of have some fun. I'm going to measure. It's going to be a little bit more than I need. I'm going to measure about 8.5 inches or so right here, and I'm going to cut it off because I'm going to have to glue with that zap the other end. I'll show you what happens if I don't glue it. You don't have to, but it's a little bit trickier, so I kind of do that gluing trick. Now, I've gotten a bunch of our tribal and trade beads because they have large holes, and I'm going to use a bunch of different leathers for this too. I got these aluminum, these are what we call our dents, our small dents beads, D-E-N-T-S. They're African, and they're just a really cool, kind of funky, a little bit of a gritty bead. And the hole sizes vary a bit. So you might have to look through the ones that come in your bag. And see, as you're stringing with this, since it's cotton, the ends want to unfurl a little. So I'm going to put 3 of these on there. Let's see, that one doesn't fit. Let me poke around and find one that does. There we go. So look at how cool just these 3 aluminum dents look. Now we need to figure out our length on this. And I don't want these bracelets to be too baggy or too tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this bracelet kind of around and it needs to be a bangle, right? Because there's no clasp to take it on and off. And so I think it's going to fit. That's about right. I can feel that it's going to come off like that. Let me measure this door to door. Yep. And as I suspected, it's about 7, just shy of 7 3/4 of an inch. Okay. So let me show you. I'm going to cut this one without doing the glue. So I'm going to cut this at, again, that really steep angle. So I've got a lot of kind of territory there, you know, to put in that crimp, and you kind of push that in there. The glue, I think, the glue trick, can you see how this end is really nice and clean, and this end has like a little bit of a raggedy end to it? You can just get your pliers and compact that cord and push it in. Okay, it takes a little bit of finesse, but you can do it. Okay, so now once that cord is in, I'm going to say that's in there, you're going to come in and you're going to crimp it. And I want to crimp it in the same direction. See how that one's crimped there? So I want to line this one up, line my crimping plier at the end of my crimp. See that? and tighten it down. Crimp it like I mean it. Okay. Now I don't crimp all the way across because I kind of like how just those little ends look. But can you see, you want to test it and make sure that nothing's going to fall out, right? And so now, as I put it on, see how I just roll it on my wrist like that? And that's all she wrote. That one's on there. So now we've got one. So I'm going to measure these at just a hair under 7 3/4. Your wrist is going to vary. So make one, take a note of the length. The beads you might need a little bit more space, but these beads are so small that it's not going to make much difference. So let's pop down and make one out of the 2 mm. Okay. That 2 mm, we're going to still use that 12 gauge and see how that goes in there really, really easily. We don't have to compact it down or glue it down, but I feel like this result is well worth it. And as long as you have that deep angle cut and you can see the difference between the one that I glued and the one that I didn't, they both work. This glued one though is a lot rounder and I thought it was easier to insert. This one it's just not quite as perfect, but it's fine. It's fine. If you don't have zap, just compress it and push it in. Just do that really nice angled cut. So I'm going to come in. There's a little bit of a burr on the edge of this, so I'm going to get my wire cutter and cut that burr away, just how it is when these were manufactured. Now these that go all the way through, you could also use them as beads to slide on there like that. But what I want to do is when I crimp this, I don't want this so close to this end of the crimp that I won't be able to get the other side of my leather cord in there. So I'm going to look down the barrel of that crimp and I'm going to crimp it here. And I like putting the crimp on first, then adding my beads. So see, there it is crimped. You could do it all the way across again, but I kind of like doing it at the end. I'm going to cut this at 8 inches just so that I have enough to work with. And then let me add some beads from my collection here. Here's one of our old Cameroon beads. Maybe I'll put on 2 of these Russian blues and maybe one. I think in the listing I have copper shadows, but I actually accidentally brought copper little shadows, which don't fit on these. So I had some regular brass shadow beads, so that's what I'm using. The 2 mm doesn't quite fit through those brass shadows unless, again, you angle cut it, I think. Yeah, there it goes. I could also save these, and they're a little tight on there. I'm going to save them for the 1.5 mm. So that's cool. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to put this one on. I'm going to put one of these. I think these are our Venetian trade. That they're old. So some that you're going to get look kind of grimy, like this, which I love. They're very old, at least 100 years old, and you get them in a package of 3 beads. So don't expect those to be super pristine because they're not. They're going to be a little on the grimy side, which is okay by me. So with that angle cut, it gave me about the right amount of length. So I'm going to go ahead and push this in just like that. And you can see I don't have that much room on this side because I wasn't being very smart. I told myself to leave it more room, but as long as it's in there, I can come in. I'm going to get my crimper, lay it there, and really crimp that down. Whoops, that wasn't a very good crimp. I need to crimp it like I mean it. Get it in there nice and even. There we go. And crimp it. And then check it. Make sure that you haven't done it too loosely. And this, again, these just roll on like a bangle, right? So here's number 2. Okay. And these beads are just kind of going to go around your wrist. If they're heavy, sometimes they'll end at the bottom of your wrist. Whatever. These are just meant to kind of be kind of cool like that. Let's continue with this 12 gauge. And I've got some 1 millimeter cord here. And I'm going to cut a couple also at 8 inches. And I want to see if two of these fit, and they do. Two strands of the 1 millimeter fit in this 12 gauge cord crimp. So I'm going to put it in, not shoving it too far past the middle, crimping it down. Check that crimp, like, oh, it's like, oh, see, I didn't crimp it quite far enough. So I'm going to come back in and crimp it again. There we go. And I'm going to pull on these to make sure that they're tight. I probably could even get one more in there. Let me put some of these shadow beads. These will fit really nicely on that 1 millimeter. And I also have what we call the sixth sense, that little six-sided bead that I have in copper. So let me put some of those on and some on this other side. Then we're going to measure and then we're going to crimp it again. So again, remember you guys, this is pre-recorded, so I know that Janice and Gita are answering questions as I chat, paying good close attention. So I'm sorry I can't answer individual questions about these, but if you do have questions, you can always email us at info@beadshop.com and we can help you out. But this is pretty self-explanatory. So see here, I'm doing this so these are flat, so they're not twisted. I'm bringing them in on that other side so they're even. We can see that there. I'll get my crimping plier. In this case, I want to turn it over because the crimp goes on the other side. That's the flat side. So I'll crimp and I'll turn it over. So there's my crimping. And I'll pull it and make sure that nothing's going to go amiss. And then I can just slide those suckers on. So you can see we're starting to build a whole wrist of these fun pieces. Let's go ahead. So that's the 1 millimeter, that's the 2 millimeter. Let's use the 1.5 millimeter. I'm going to jump down to the 14 gauge crimp. So I'll put that in. So again, it's about halfway. No angle cutting needed for these because they fit just perfectly. But there's my crimp. Check it. I'm going to measure it at 8 inches. Cut it so I've got enough to kind of play with. I grabbed one of our vintage finds. Let's see if this daisy fits through, and it does, that 1.5 millimeter. So let me put one of those shadow beads next to it, one of each. That goes through. Whoops. So you can see how fast and easy these guys are. I'm going to cut it about right there. This one's a little smaller. This is more about 7.5 inches. But let's see how it fits. You don't want them, you got to get the sizing kind of almost exactly right. You don't want them to be too big or else they'll flop around too much on your wrist. Too small, they'll be too hard to roll on to your wrist. Crimp it, pull it, double check it like this, and then slide it on. This one's a little smaller, but it's going to go on just fine. So slide it on right there. And I think they actually fit a little bit better if they're a little bit tighter, like so. Let me do one more with this bolo cord, and I'm going to glue it one more time. Let me get that little baggie. Oh, I glued this side already, right? But it was this side. Yeah, here it is. Here's this side. So, and let me angle cut it. Come on down. You can see that zap really stiffened this side, that end. So I'm going to come in and I'm really going to hold my plier, my wire cutter, at that deep angle. So can you see how I've really thinned out that end? That's what you need for this. I'm going to get that 14 gauge, sorry, the 12 gauge crimp. And see that one's a little crushed. Not all of these crimps are going to be perfect, so I'm going to check both sides. That looks good. And see, I can really get that in there. That looks good. Hopefully I've got a, let's take it out. See, I can see how far it goes in. Yeah, that's good right there. Let me go ahead and crimp it. Nice and tight. Check that. Let me turn it here. There we go. Check that it's nice and tight, which it is. You have to angle cut it, so I'm going to cut it just a touch more than 8. So I've got enough room. Let me glue that second end. And again, we don't have to, but it makes our lives so much easier. You don't have to put any beads on these at all. They would look great just kind of stacked up, just the leather itself. There we go. That's in there. I'll let that sit for just a minute while that zap sets up. I'm going to carefully put my zap glued piece of baggie to the side. Let's see, what color don't I have? Let's see, this is the 1.5. Let's see if 2 of these will fit. I don't think they will. Let me see. But in that 12 gauge, yeah, they're 2. But you could also mix this with the 1.5 millimeter and the 1 millimeter maybe. Let's see if that goes in. I think if I angle cut it and played around with it, yeah, there we go. That's in there like that. But I'm just going to use the 1.5 for the moment because it's here and it's good to go. Let's get that crimp. And yeah, you do need this large size crimping plier. We carry these as well, but they're fitted right for this size crimp. Okay, so grab onto that. Cut it at, yeah, it's about right. Let me add some Russian blues to this. These Russian blue glass beads, they do also have a nice hole size. They are very variegated in size, so you're going to see some large ones, some small ones. This is just a bunch of the plain Russian blue like that. Measure it at about 7.5. Cut it. Put this side in that crimp. And you get, I think, per package of crimp, it's about 50. So you've got plenty of crimps. So you can get a bunch in all the different sizes and colors So that's nice and tight. Slide that on there. Let's get that blue one. I love the old Cameroon. And I love these. See if this one will fit. That one's not quite right, but yeah, these don't quite fit on this heavy braid, but these do with the big hole. I'm just going to do 2 like that. Let me go ahead and do that deep angle cut. There we go. Let me measure and make sure. Yeah, that's going to be a little long, so hopefully I glued down far enough. There we go. Let's get this in there. Use your plier to help you kind of coax it into place. Again, it's a little bit of a tight fit, but that's okay. As long as it's in there and you get it crimped, you're not going to have an issue. Okay. Check it. It's not going anywhere. Roll it on to add to your stack. So here is what I've got. I think they really look attractive. You could just do a whole, remember how we used to wear those rubber bracelets back in the 80s, right? A big whole wristful. These are kind of the elevated look of that. So let me slide all these off and you can see them. Don't obsess too much over what you're doing with these. Just make them. Figure out what your length is. You've got plenty of crimps, so you can do a couple of practice runs. It's a great way to use your leftover scraps of leather. And if this is crimped, you can see I've been really rolling them there under some pressure. If it's really crimped, they're not going to come apart. Okay, I wore mine continuously, like all week, pretty much. And I even wore them in the shower and things like that. If you do that, though, be prepared that these are going to, not have a super long shelf life. But they're kind of fun, to be able to just kind of easy breezy wear them, kind of a thing. So there they are. Let me get a little tighter in here. And so just get yourself a variety of the cords, this new cotton cord that we've gotten, a variety of sizes of the crimp tubes. We carry them in the 14 and the 12 millimeter, okay? And then just get yourself a variety of beads that you like that have large holes. I used a lot of ours from our Tribal and Trade today, as well as just a variety of your leather. I used distressed brown. I used that bolo cord in the blue and in, I think, also the brown. This is distressed antique brown, the double strand I used here. And of course, this is the natural and the distressed green. So all of the listings are on our website over at beadshop.com. So if you jump over to BeadShop, you can find all of the information on the project and the products from today's broadcast right on our website. Sign up for our newsletter for the latest discounts, giveaways, and new products. So again, I hope you like experimenting with these. They're super easy. You can't you can't go wrong. They're so simple to do. Okay. But thank you again, you guys, for joining me on this pre-recorded broadcast on this Friday. I'm sorry I can't be with you here in person, but family duty calls. So please keep us in your good thoughts. And I will be back soon for live broadcasts. In the meantime, Janice and Drea and the whole team are holding down the fort. As always, we really, really appreciate you and your support of our small business, because without you guys out there, we couldn't be here doing what we love. So have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe, hug your loved ones close, and I will see you soon. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. Talk to you soon.